Hey, I'm John Hazel, automation expert and business strategist.
And I'm Kevin Miller, software lead and seasoned podcaster.
And this is the Automate and Elevate podcast, where we help you build systems, create leverage, and scale your business.
On today's episode, we're going to dive into the very important subject of prioritization. There's a lot of things going on. People might be losing their jobs, they have a million different things going on at once. And in order to survive, you really have to learn how to prioritize. You have to learn how to pick what's the most important task and focus on that in order to get the results you want. Yeah, John, just to get this started off, can you speak to how prioritization is helping you through, just helping you in your business and life in general?
Yeah. The whole reason we're talking about this is because I'm struggling with prioritization right now. So usually, when um, people will write books about things that they need to become experts at, right? And that's how you become an expert, is like by teaching the thing. That's how you really learn it, right? So we're talking about this because I have a lot of head knowledge about prioritization, but then when the rubber meets the road, a lot of times it's very difficult to juggle everything. And a lot of times the decisions about what to prioritize are emotional ones. It's very hard to, you know, choose them strictly logically. Sometimes it's impossible because it's tied into relationships or whatever. So um and especially because there's a lot of unknowns involved. Obviously we all want to go for the priorities that we believe are going to give us the highest ROI, return on investment, right? Like what's really going to have the most impact in my life for the things that I focus on. And there's methods like I think it's called the Eisenhower matrix, which is in Stephen Covey's book, but basically where you have this grid of important and urgent, and so you've got not important, not urgent, and those are things you can scrap. You've got urgent but not important; those are things hopefully you can delegate. And then you've got things that are important but not urgent, and these are the things that slip away from us a lot of times, right? Because if it's urgent and important, you got to deal with that right away, right? If it's urgent and important, those are the things you're going to deal with. But if it's important but not urgent, there's nobody pressuring you to get those things done, then those are the things that a lot of times we end up deferring and deferring and deferring. And so, of course, there's time scheduling methods, like the time blocking method, where you have blocks of time that are dedicated to certain types of priorities. This works well for certain personalities. It does not work well for my personality. I have like this rebellion against focusing on the thing that I've slotted out to focus on. um, and then the one that's been the most effective, which I've talked about in this podcast for me, is GTD by David Allen, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. It's a very holistic approach. So when I'm talking about GTD, I'm usually actually just talking about one subset of it. I might be talking about the horizons of focus, which comes from there, or I might be talking about the method of inbox capturing and clarifying and organizing, and then reviewing and acting on those things, right? That's like the kind of the core GTD. So there's all these different methods and frameworks, but then when I'm swimming in all these things, I'm like, all right, what do I actually focus on? What do I prioritize, right? And sometimes it helps just to clean up the inboxes. A couple weeks ago, I was like drowning in my email inbox, and I just had to like stay up late and spend several hours cleaning up. I had to just declare email bankruptcy on like my newsletters and notifications. Thankfully, the email client tool that I use separates newsletters and notifications into their own group, where I can just pretty much archive all of them at once, so that I'm just focused on the important emails that are coming from people. But then I had to work my way through all of those. And like there's great tools now. I have a way to use Claude to help me draft replies to emails, and I'm using a specific Claude skill that actually is using my tone, knows a lot about what my knowledge skill sets are, so that it's not just random. It's actually a relevant draft, right? So there's those things to help me maintain all the reactive things that come in. Um, but it's difficult no matter what. Like even with all those frameworks in place, I'm still wrestling with like I've got these three big initiatives that I'm focused on. Where do I give my time and attention today? Right.
So, like, what do you find is the disconnect between, let's just say, book knowledge? Okay, you've read about these awesome frameworks, and then actually applying it in real life. What do you think is kind of like impeding you from applying these frameworks in real life?
I think it's kind of what I mentioned, emotions. That's like you get so stressed that it could be paralyzing. You just get overwhelmed because your brain's like bouncing between these things, and multitasking is basically a myth. Multitask like there's certain types of multitasking. For instance, like I feel like productively restful if I'm folding laundry while watching a TV show, right? Like that's a great way to be productive, but then still rest. There's these certain types of like multitasking that are definitely possible, but being able to focus on really important knowledge work things simultaneously is basically impossible. So, um, but then when your brain is like bouncing back and forth because you don't know what's important and you don't know what's the thing I need to focus on right now, then that's where it's just like we're stalled and unproductive, right? So I think one of the ways I've been able to turn some of that book knowledge into effective, being able to use it in my life is by understanding my personality and the personalities of those around me, because I also see how like meeting with somebody about something helps me focus on that thing. Everything else like fades away, and I'm like when we're solving a problem together on a call, I forget about time and space. I forget about everything else, and I'm like completely focused on solving this problem with this person. But when I'm trying to solve it by myself, my mind wanders to all these other things because I think my mind is like questioning on what's the priority. But when I'm in front of somebody, the thing we're talking about becomes the important priority. So for some personalities, it's that. Now, I can't do that all the time because I am primarily introverted. So if I'm on calls back to back all day, every day, then I'm just completely drained and I start to become worthless on the calls, right? So there's this self awareness aspect that helps you apply the right frameworks, the right pieces of knowledge at the right times.
So yeah, you kind of mentioned just having that partner there, or just somebody, maybe was a client or anybody, and it kind of brings you into the moment. Whereas it's a lot more difficult to do it alone. If you really think hard about it, is there something there that when you're alone that really makes you focus? Like, have there been moments where you've been by yourself and you're just really into something that everything else fades away?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like I just have to force myself to focus on it. I mean, I need to get back to this, but for a while I was like consistently writing in the mornings. It's like the goal is to eventually write a book, but it was like I just need to write something. And so I would literally sit down at the keyboard and have my notepad full screen, and I would just start typing. I would literally start mashing on the keyboard, and then I would start typing like kind of just like randomly stringing words together, just like stream of because it'd be first thing in the morning. I'm like not even awake, and I just like start trying to string words together, stream of consciousness, just like type whatever comes out, and it's like it starts out complete gibberish, and then it would evolve into something that it is not important, and then eventually it would evolve into like depths of importance. And so just the sheer like forcing myself to focus on it and like sticking to it for 30 minutes worked for that for me. So but again, that's like when I have the time. It's hard sometimes when we're really busy and we're bouncing between engagements and it's like, oh, I've got 10 minutes in between meetings. What can I get done during this time? Certain types of things you can't get done, right? And that's where GTD has also helped me, because if I have processed my inboxes and I've lined out like here's the next actions I need to take, I know what those like the context limits of those next actions are. So I'm like, okay, this is a 10-minute next action. This is the kind of thing I can get done in between meetings. And if that's been predefined, then it's easy to make use of those little pockets of time, right? But in order for those things to be predefined, you have to have several hours a week dedicated to like reviewing all your lists. And then you have to have at least an hour or a few hours a day dedicated to processing your inboxes and making sure that those lists are clean and up to date. And that's like really hard depending on who you are and what you do to like be disciplined and make time for those things, right?
Right. So you mentioned emotions. A lot of times it can impede you from prioritizing. So let's just say somebody lost their job, or they face some major loss or setback in their life, and emotionally they're disheveled. So how do they get back on track to where they are focusing on the tasks they need to prioritize versus just like wallowing in sadness and not doing anything?
Yeah. um, I think it's different for different people, but the first step is usually doing something with your body, whether that's like literally just taking deep breaths, doing box breathing, or stand. I have a stand up desk, which is great. Like it converts between sitting and standing. And so sometimes I'm like, I can just feel that I'm like stiff and not fully present. And so I just need to switch it to stand up mode and be in that place. Or I need to take my dogs for a walk and just like separate from everything for a little bit. But usually it's like I need to do something with my body, because the body and the mind are connected. Obviously the brain is part of the body and your mind is part of your brain. So um, a lot of times it's like I need to change up how I'm operating physically, and then that disrupts whatever mental state I'm in a little bit. Um, and then sometimes it's just literally acknowledging the emotional thing. Sometimes it's writing down like, this is what happened and it's frustrating me and it's like making it really hard for me to focus, and just like sometimes the thing just needs to be acknowledged, and when you write it down or you talk it out and verbally process it with somebody, then sometimes you're able to release it from there, right? Sometimes really it's like a boulder. Like what I just described is like when something's like a big rock, you can kick it out of the way. A big rock in your mind that's just blocking it. It's like you can kick it out of the way by going on a walk. Sometimes it's a boulder that has to be broken up first, and it's like I can't get anything done. I'm gonna go work out and like hit the sauna, or I'm gonna go for a run. I'm gonna do something that's a little bit bigger, a little bit more time consuming. I'm gonna disconnect for the next 2 hours, or maybe it's like I need therapy and I just schedule that, and it's hard to move on to the next thing until I've had a therapy session. So I think there's a lot of different ways, and it's knowing yourself and trying those different things to figure out like what's the thing um, that shifts things for me to where I can focus again on what's important. And that's you. And the hard thing about it, it's like such a catch 22, because it's like the time that you need to have the most focus and be able to prioritize really well is usually when things have been heavily disrupted, like a layoff or something.
So, I know in the productivity community, something like priority, sometimes it can sound like a buzzword, just like one of those cliches that everybody spouts off. So, if you were to tangibly paint a picture of what uh, being, a good prioritizer is versus not being a good prioritizer? Like, how does that actually affect someone's life, like whether business or relationships?
Yeah. Um, if you don't prioritize, you get caught up dealing with all the things that are not important. And maybe they're urgent and not important. And some things are not urgent and not important. And you end up spending your day looking at, like cleaning out newsletters one by one out of your email inbox. And it's like a way to feel productive when you're really not productive at all. Um, you could have just eliminated all those in one swipe. By the way, it's a good email hack. There's an app called Chuck on at least on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android, but it'll like group your emails by sender. And so like, whatever that store is that you're subscribed to, and you got all the coupons and stuff, one swipe and archive all those emails. Right. So you get all the clutter out of the way, and so that you can focus on what matters, but just don't trick yourself into thinking that you're being productive, right? Like, I think that's the number one trap. I think for really smart people that are curious people, we can fall into this trap of like of learning, where we think we're just learning something new, but really we're like relearning the same things we already know. We're like listening to the same podcasts, and we're like trying to squeeze this educational juice out of something, and we're actually like kind of obese on the things that we've been learning, and we need to apply them. We got to get out. Like, your body is going to collect carbs when you're eating and you're sitting stagnant, but when you get out and work out, then those carbs become useful and necessary, and you get to this point where you actually need a carb load and eat more than the normal person because you're working out constantly, right? Or whatever. If you're depending on your fitness level, I think the same thing happens with our minds and our knowledge level, where we can trick ourselves into thinking we're productive because we're just absorbing all this information, but we're not doing anything with it. So I think those are a couple of the ways where we trick ourselves into thinking that we're being productive when we're not. And so at the foundation of like prioritizing well is, what are the things that actually move the needle? And sometimes it's moving the needle short term, and sometimes it's long term. And the long term ones, again, go back to the important but not urgent things that are really hard to do, right? It's like, it took us way too long to actually start publishing a podcast because it's like an important but not urgent thing. There's nobody like pushing me to do the podcast, but it's something that we need to do because we see the value in not being the Dead Sea and just absorbing all this information. We need to like put information out into the world, teach people things, be helpful.
So, like, for my final question, we talked about the importance of prioritizing. Is there ever instances where we should kind of throw away prioritization because maybe it feels too restrictive and it's emotionally damaging to us to always feel like we have to, engage in this strict routine? Like, do you ever have to step back and just say, I'm going to put the plans aside and just do what makes me feel better for the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes it's just like, I don't know what the most important thing is to work on, but I need to work on something. So let me just see what the first thing I can work on is and just get something off of my plate, right? And what we don't want is paralysis of analysis, because we're trying to prioritize and figure out what's the most important and perfect thing to work on, because there's never the perfect thing to work on. I was talking to somebody about paralysis of analysis just the other day. We were talking about actually evaluating a menu at a restaurant and deciding what you're going to order. And he said, he heard somebody say the trick of like, it's not even a trick. It's just like, you make the choice and then you decide that was the right choice, regardless of what it is, right? You just decide. Like, so for me, we were at an acai bowl place, and I had gone in planning to order an acai bowl, And then I saw that they had this ube chia dish, and I love ube and I love chia seeds. And so I was like, I have to order that. I actually want an acai bowl, but I'm not going to be back at this place, and I need to try this and see if it's good. And it was okay. It was mid. It was, and it wasn't that filling. It wasn't, which is what I expected. I knew like an acai bowl is going to be more filling. But if I hadn't gotten that thing, I would have walked away curious about it, and I would have regretted my decision. So I still didn't regret my decision because I learned that, okay, this thing's okay, but if I ever come back to this place, it's not what I'm going to get next time. So I'm happy to have discovered the information, right? And I think the most successful people, that's how they think, is like, whatever decision I make is the right decision because I'm going to learn something either way. I'm going to learn that this wasn't the best decision and there's another way to go, and I know better for next time. I'm going to learn, I'm going to learn in my failures, right? And so I think no matter what, you're better off with forward motion because you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
I think this is a fantastic stopping point. If somebody needs help with prioritization, are they able to reach out to you and have a chat with you?
Yeah, please do. You can hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever platform you're watching this on. You can visit me at johnhazel.com. You can send me an email, john@johnhazel.com. I'd love to connect with you, and I hope this has been helpful.
Awesome. And did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts? And yeah, you already mentioned where they can find you at. So like, what is the last idea you want to leave our audience with?
I think I said it there. It's like it's really like a sailboat is designed to sail. Your mind is so powerful and capable of so much. It's designed to produce amazing, valuable things that other people need. But if you're not letting it out into the world, then you're not going to be able to do that. If you don't untie the sailboat from the dock, then it's never going to sail. You can always redirect it. If you end up going the wrong direction, you can change the direction of the sail and you can go a different direction. But tied to the shore, you don't get anywhere. So it's time to make a move.
Absolutely. And we want everybody to tune in again. We definitely appreciate you for joining us. Be sure to catch us next time.